we are in the greenhouse. Um, and I want to talk a little bit about going cheap versus spending some money. Um, the last few years, since I got this greenhouse, and this greenhouse, I couldn't afford this. This was a gift. It's not sponsored or anything. I'm not sponsored by anybody for anything. I make no money off these videos. I'm not monetized. I don't have ads. Like, you guys, I do all this because I just like talking to garden people, and I can't talk to garden people who are thousands of miles away. So here I am for free. Anyway, um, this greenhouse did not come out of my pocket. It was a gift because I could never afford a greenhouse like this. If you look back in my website, you can see, which is also non monetized, there's no ads there. If you look back on my website, you can see pictures of my old hoop house in the garden section. The hoop house I built by hand out of junk. It worked great for about 2 years, but it was very hard to keep everything dormant alive. It was hard to keep it warm. This is a Planta Sungrow. Um, it's fairly well insulated just out of the box. It's got these, the 6 mil, whatever that double layer walls are. Um, but as you can see, I've got that covers the doorway so that cold wind can't come in. I've got a concrete tarp on this side, and I've got a solar pool tarp that used to be up over the entire thing that's been torn up by our intense windstorms. We have some pretty bad windstorms here. So my plan to have it on the outside is bad. Next year, I have to slice that and put it with magnets on the inside here, so it's insulated inside. Insulation in a greenhouse in winter is how you keep the greenhouse warm. Um, I have a rain barrel, a 60-gallon black rain barrel up against the sunny side. It does get a little warm. It evens out the warm and cold from day to night, but it will not heat the greenhouse. I have a sand floor that absorbs heat, will not heat the greenhouse. In the winter, I have no lights in here. This is springtime. I'm up and running with starts. In the winter, there are no heat mats and no lights. So the greenhouse can get as cold as it is outside unless I do something. For the last, well, since I got the greenhouse, my solution has been this cheap thing. You can set this so that right now it's 70 degrees in here. Wow. And I haven't had any heat on. It's the heat mats, it's the lights, it's the sun outside. But in the winter, this thing can be set to keep this greenhouse just above 38 degrees. I have a little fan on the other end, and it'll circulate that heat that comes out of it. And the thermometer for it is this Inkbird, right? Turns it on when the Inkbird, which is on the ground low where it gets cold, when that reaches 38, it means the rest of the greenhouse is about to frost. I keep it just above frost in here. Using one tiny space heater and a fan. The fan runs off solar. The Inkbird, all the other stuff runs off solar except for this. I do have electricity in this greenhouse for this heater. I get usually in the winter a week or two here or there where in the night it's running for an hour or two. It actually, if you insulate well enough, it will pop on, warm up, fan moves it around, and it turns off. So you don't have, like, my electric bill went up about, last year it was like $20 a month. This year it was like 30 over the winter for that heat to run. To keep all of my figs, olives, avocados, and citrus alive, dormant in this greenhouse. Not to grow anything, because keeping it just above frost, about the only things I could grow in here would be spinach, lettuce, maybe some kale. And I obviously am set up, this greenhouse for me is a way to make a million starts to give away every spring. It is not a way for me to grow food over winter. I would have to spend a bit more, I think, to do that. So I don't want to do that. Then, that's the greenhouse, right? You can build a hoop house. There are so many hoop house plans. The way I built my old hoop house was I looked on Farm and Garden Free on Craigslist and on, I think, Facebook Marketplace or somewhere. and I found what's called a cattle pen, and it is 3 or 4 large wire or metal tube frame with some sidebars and a top bar. It basically looks like the frame to this without the peak, right? It's just a curved, almost like a hoop house looking. And I got it for free because it was bent and the cattle couldn't be contained in it anymore. Cattle pen, not the fencing, not the hog pen, not that, but it's actually a frame made of very heavy metal. It's hard to pick up, it was hard to set up. I know it's unhealthy. I know it's bad. Anyway, so I had that, and I actually bought this solar pull tarp, and I bought some greenhouse sheeting and twine and some bricks. And I literally just tied greenhouse sheeting and bunched it and tied it to the frame at the bottom. I put the solar pull tarp over the entire thing, insulation, because it's like bubble wrap. And then I took every piece of bubble wrap, anything that I'd ever ordered in my whole life or that other people had, they gave me like piles of bubble wrap, and I completely, with tape, covered the inside of that plastic with bubble wrap, and then cardboard, I was shoving cardboard in and just anything to insulate it without spending money because I had no money. And it worked for about 2 years. Like I said, it just was more expensive on my electric bill to keep it heated because the insulation wasn't good and there was no real door on it. I had to like lift all this stuff to get in. It was very difficult to work in. But it did function, and you can do that. You can look for the materials and you can build your own. If you can get free cast off storm windows, like the double paned windows, I cannot get them here. I looked for years. I cannot find them here. Everyone wants money for them, even the used, beat up ones, screen doors and storm windows. So I can't do that. I can't build my own little greenhouse. But if you're good at building, you can find those somehow, and you can find some pallets. You can use the wood and those storm windows, and you can build yourself a nice greenhouse. For me, I got very lucky. Someone gifted me this wonderful planta. It was a nightmare to put together. I'm sure you've seen the video. I don't know if you've seen the video I did on building this thing, but it was very difficult to build. The instructions are terrible. Once it's together, it is the craziest thing. It is so solid. We've had 75-mile-an-hour winds here, and it doesn't even shake when I'm inside it. We've had 3-foot snowpack, and it just slides off. It's great. It's great for crazy weather places. I'm unusual because I have this is unusual because I have a very large ponderosa out there that shades basically that side kind of a little. Especially with the angle of the sun and all that. In the summer, it shades that side a little. So instead of running my greenhouse east to west, I have run it north to south. Different than most people. I get more western sun exposure in the winter and less sun exposure in the summer when I want to cool it off in here because of the direction I've put in where it's at. The north side, which is behind you, is completely sealed off. I never open that door except in summer. All of this is always completely sealed. I even have all my spare scrap wood like leaned up against the outside of it. It's very insulated. There's lots of layers of stuff on there because that is the side where, especially at the top, where heat will escape, the east and the north. Very insulated. The only thing I spent money on was this concrete tarp, and it was kind of expensive, and it did not last, and I will not buy another one. But a solar pull tarp, you can slice it up and put it inside, and then the wind outside won't tear it up. And these are pretty good. Any greenhouse you make, if you use metal as the frame, you can use magnets. Let me show you what I've been using. You can use cheap magnets like these. These even have a hook on them, and you can use them to hold up all kinds of things. You can use them to hold up big lights, or I have my utility strips for power are being held up by them. Some of my plants, sometimes I'll string them up with those magnets, and I use the magnets to attach insulation everywhere. You can see over here there's some Reflectix left from the deep winter. I usually cover with that, and I just use these magnets to hold it up. Now, that's the greenhouse. And you can really use anything to insulate. You can use bubble wrap from packages, you can use cardboard. You don't need to get Reflectix or reflective shade cloth. You don't need to get tarps. Just literally bubble wrap and cardboard in layers will work to insulate. It will work. Um, as far as heating goes, a cheaper way to heat is to get one of those little Mr. Buddy propane things, and you just put it. That'll work. A milk house heater will keep it above freezing. And if you're just keeping things dormant that don't mind being frost, then you can use that. You can also shut off part of the greenhouse so that only a section of it is like you can put layers of sheets or agribon or something and make a greenhouse inside a greenhouse to keep it warmer. You can use old quilts and old blankets to do that. And then your little heater just points into that little tent. You're not heating this whole big space or the whole hoop house or greenhouse. You're just heating the one little spot. If you have raised beds in your greenhouse, you can just put agribon or row covers and it will warm them up even a little bit more. There's 100 ways to warm a greenhouse. You can even make a Walpini if you can where you live and dig really deep. Where I live, I can't dig that deep without a permit. I was able to go about 18 inches down and I covered the floor just with regular sand. It has gotten compacted over time. Nothing really grows through it. And I like to come in here barefoot in the summer, so it feels nice on my feet. I didn't want anything I couldn't walk on barefoot in here. The next thing is structure. Like, what are you going to put in your greenhouse? Well, I got this cheap ass rain barrel used. I think it was like $20. You can probably get things like Rubbermaid bins, or if you can find these kind of rain barrels or any kind of rain barrel for free. If you can find old garbage can things, any kind of container that'll hold gallons and gallons and gallons of water that you can throw in your greenhouse, it'll help keep it from going too extreme from hot to cold day to night, because the water will absorb the temperatures. Won't warm it up, but it'll even it out, right? So it's good to have in here too, because you do want to be able to water and you don't want to be trudging back and forth carrying water. This time of year, I've used up all of the rainwater that I siphoned into here over the summer. I do have another 2 rain barrels like this outside. They catch all the rainwater in the spring. I siphon a lot of it into here until this is full. So this is full in I want to say mid-October it was full. Now it's been months and it's empty. So I'm using my gray water. I actually have a little pump in the house, and I have a tube that I can stick in here, and I can siphon all of the gray water from I don't know, soaking dishes or, bath or shower water, anything that doesn't have detergent or anything that would hurt the plants. I tend to use salsa. I use that Dr. Bronner's. I don't really use anything that can hurt any plants. So most of my gray water comes into this rain barrel. And then I use mosquito bits to keep gnats and mosquitoes out of it. Those are an expense, but they're important and you need them, because you can't be storing water without some kind of treatment for mosquitoes. And then, of course, cheaping again, how do you build stuff in here? What are you going to do? Well, you can take pallets and you can do what I did outside and build raised beds along the sides or down the middle or whatever you want, just by screwing pallets together. And James Prigioni has a great video about building pallet raised beds. So if you want to grow greens in your greenhouse all winter, you could do some of those. I don't. I just have dormant trees, and then in the spring I use it for starts. So I don't need that. I don't have any raised beds in here. What I do have are these cheap ass grid, shelves. I have them all over, right? The first batch of these I got 4 for $20 at a yard sale. And I fell in love with them because they're really easy to put together, rearrange, whatever, change the height. They're super cheap. They do hold weight. They will hold, you know, 3 per level, full trays of dirt or full pots of dirt, right? Like these are in no danger of going anywhere, especially since I sink them into the sand a little bit, the ground. I also have one of these cheap ass white tables. I have 2 of them. Those are my work tables. Again, yard sale find, a couple bucks. As far as lighting, the cheapest lighting I've found are these. These are four layer LED strip lights. I know they make fancy ones. Let's see, I have one fancy kind of one over here. This thing, right? You know, it's like 4 plants or whatever. I have some down here that are, oh, these are 4 special full spectrum. I don't know. I don't really think that it makes a difference. These, they work just as well, and the plants don't seem to struggle at all with them. And they're very cheap. I think I got, well, one of the boxes I got, I think I paid $30 for 6. So they're like $5 a piece for each, piece. I have another box of 10 that I got in other ways that I got for free. I got them for free, basically. So there's those. As far as keeping them powered, you can really cheaply get a couple of these old things. This or this little one up here. And all they are is timers. You set the time that you want the lights and the heat to be on, heater to be on, mats or whatever, and then you forget about it. Every day it goes around the clock, turns them on and off automatically. I do have these Stanley strips they're up above where any water would be, and they're here for me to have a million heat mats and a million lights. You don't need to be going this big. You can organize better. Obviously, look at this zigzag of nonsense. You could organize better than I have and probably get a lot more out of a lot less. I am just very disorganized. So as far as your starts, right? What are you going to put them in? Well, I had a really good year a few years ago, and I invested in a bunch of these very heavy duty trays. They're still plastic though, and I don't really like plastic. I have a bunch of them now because I did that. Went a little nuts. So I'll use them for their lifespan. But what I prefer to use, honestly, are metal trays. Metal with soil blocks. These are not very deep, and it's kind of hard if you want something with a dome over it to keep something moist, because you can't really do that with those. They're too shallow. If I can find deeper ones and I ever have money again, or anyone wants to be generous, deep 10 by 20, or even just like a few inches deep metal trays, I would love to switch over to those completely. If they're a few inches deep, I can put a wrong size dome over the top, even upside down, and there's still room for the sprout to grow, right? With those, there's no room. If I wrap them with anything, there's no room. So deeper ones would be better. But in the meantime, these trays, you don't have to use those. You can use anything you've got. I use a lot of these. All of my friends know that if they're buying a cake, or they're buying some cupcakes, or they've got donuts, or they've got something that comes in plasticky big covered containers that can clip shut, like a clamshell, I will take them. I will use them. I will grow things in them. Like I've got my cilantro in this. That was from my birthday cake. And they work fine. They work fine. Just put some dirt in the bottom, close them up, and they grow. What else? As far as pots like that go inside, I avoid that most of the time because I make soil blocks, right? Soil blocks are the cheapest way, the easiest way to start. It's either that or make a forest of seedlings like this. There's not even any blocks in here. It's just dirt, kind of deep. And then I put the seeds on top in a dome, and they come up like this. but you can dig underneath with your hand and pull the entire root system out and then pot them up into something else bigger when they're ready. So forests of seedlings or soil blocks save you the expense of any kind of little starter trays or pots or any of that junk. When you do want to up pot, I have found you can go as cheap as you want. We had these little things as rinse cups at my work. They're terrible because when they get damp at the bottom, they would leak. And that's very dangerous for tattoo artists to have a leak of biohazard material on their tray. So these were useless. The shop I was in at the time, years ago, this is before I moved to Spokane, the guy was just like, I don't want these, get rid of them. And I was like, I'll take them. I don't know what I was going to use them for, but now I do. These are my little starter pots, right? Anyway, so where was I? Oh yeah, pots. So those little Dixie cups have been working great for me. I still have a whole bag of them. Whatever, right? Then you'll see, a lot of people do this. They'll even start things in these solo cups. I do have a shitload of these solo cups. One person brought me like 3 bags of them at my free garden table 2 years ago. And then also one of the neighbor houses here, they are younger men. They drink a lot of beer and have a lot of backyard parties. And they bring me all of their red solo cups when they are done having a party. They actually rinse them out with the hose and just bring them over in a big pile, a big garbage bag full. So I have tons of those. Again, they're plastic, not a fan, but I'm giving away a lot of my stuff. So like if I'm going to give this away, like this came actually, this is like one of them was eating ice cream or something. If I'm going to give this away, this is a good thing to give it away and just poke a hole or two in the bottom. Good enough. I have these too. These again, these were from like 20 years ago. They were rinse cups at a shop, which we switched over to better ones that weren't so top heavy, and the owner was tossing them. I'll take them. And here they are being used to give plants away in. Now I also have a gazillion of these little 2x2 pots. These are incredibly cheap. These ones are really sturdy. Like these are solid. These are going to last a long time. I'm going to reuse these every year until they start to fall apart. And when they start to fall apart, I will use them to give away a plant in. Once you graduate from that, you've got things like, if you don't care too much about plastic, of course, these little plastic bag pots. These are so cheap. And for somebody like me, I'm going to give away a few hundred starts. Those are a really good solution. You can even use little plastic bags, any kind of plastic bag. One year I used plastic machine bags that were too small for my tattoo machine, and I had a whole box of them, and I was like, what am I going to do with these? Poke a hole in the bottom and starts go in them to give away. I have also used cigarette boxes as giveaway containers for to replace the little 2x2 pot. When you get up bigger, those solo cups work well, and these 4x4s, right? You can get these, sometimes you can just get these for free. If you just keep your eyes peeled in like the gardening groups and stuff, sometimes people are just like, man, I just got to get rid of like a lot of these, right? It doesn't matter if they're square or round or whatever. Go grab them, use them till they fall apart, till the wheels fall off, and then give them away to somebody who has none. Solo cups are the same size as that basically, but a little deeper. I just kind of have a lot of things. And then if you're going into bigger plants, you've got stuff that needs a bigger container. You can always go to the garden center and look outside, ask if they have any old unused pots, trays, things like that. A lot of times they will give you those. Every one of these little pots and the thing that's holding them, I got for free, I think. One of the big box stores just had a big pile of those things. They're like just free with a sign in the garden center because they go through so many of them. And for them to fill up their waste with that, they'd rather give them away to you. They'd rather unload them on you. Again, plastic, lots of plastic in here. But slowly but surely, I am switching over to metals and wood for everything I possibly can. The only thing I can't replace that way is these poly panels because of the curve of this greenhouse. I don't know how I would replace those with windows, and I can't find free windows here. You can also go, if you have a lot of money, which I do not, you can also go for things like, big terracottas. There's a fig waking up. You can go for terracottas. You can go with old pieces of ceramic or pots or mugs. You can take your coffee mugs that you never use, that someone gave you as like a joke gift, and get a Dremel with a little running water and a ceramic head, and drill some holes in the bottom of a coffee mug or anything ceramic, and use that as a starter. When you get into bigger, like, tree pots, the plastic ones are cheapest. The fabric ones, these are actually non-woven plastic. This one is anyway, which means it's plastic. It's a plastic polyester bag. I have one back there that's made of burlap, and those will last a good long time, just as long as these, and they won't put microplastics in your dirt. So I'm switching a lot of my bags and tree pots over to burlap. But you can also look for fancy, pretty, ceramics or terracotta. Once your tree is like established, you can switch to something good and pretty. Um, as far as like the expensive seeds, um, seeds are cheap. If you need some seeds, literally just leave a comment. I'll send you some. Like, email me, whatever the fuck. I don't care. I have, like, this is one of like 6 seed containers I've got. I save seeds. I crossbreed things and save those seeds. I do seed swaps. I collect seeds. I have so many. And almost every gardener who has been in it for a while will have like a massive collection of seeds, especially older ones where they're not so sure about the germination rate. So if you're willing to take those and take a risk and just like plant extra, those are a really good solution. Another thing is the library. Oftentimes, libraries will have free seeds. They'll have little packets of seeds. People like me donate little packets of seeds. And then you can go in there, go to the seed library, free seeds. There is a seed exchange online. I might try to put a link in the comments where you can request, I think it's up to like 5 or 6 packs of free seeds. They're good varieties too. They're edible, good things. You can do seed swaps. You can go to your local master gardener thing and see if they have free seeds. You can collect and save your own seeds every year from the plants you grow. And then, so seeds you can get pretty cheap. If you're looking for just like average basic food stuff, so you can get pretty cheap seeds. If you want to be fancy and weird, you're going to have to pay. As far as like growing little trees, little fig trees and things, well, when you find someone who has a lot of like figs, they're going to prune them in the winter. They're going to prune them every year. And every cutting from one of these can become a whole new tree. So if you just, ask, if you know someone who has figs or a fig, ask, can I have some of those and root them? And you can try to root them and get your own little trees. It works. Same with grapevines. You can also, you can just ask people a lot of the time. Most gardeners are willing to share. So you just ask people. Dirt. Now, dirt is a problem for me, anyway. So I buy Pro Mix every year. I get a block for seed starting. It's the anti-damping off stuff. And I get a block for up potting of the cheapest stuff they've got. I get some worm cast, some perlite, some peat moss. That's my dirt for the year for in here. My outside dirt is getting really good because I compost, and I have a friend with a farm who brings me all of the poop and sawdust and bedding and hay and straw and all that. If you have no access to that, you probably want to just go buy the cheapest dirt you can. And again, look for that fish emulsion and just juice it up a tiny bit with that when the plants are ready. But really, even the dirt that's outside, unless you live in a very strange place, your outdoor dirt, just mixed with a little bit of that bag dirt, will probably work. So dirt can be really cheap or really expensive depending what you're going for. And then time and energy. That's where it costs, because I'm out here every other day for water, and I'm out here every day to look at everything and check on things to make sure nothing is drying out or dying or catching fire, or like, I'm out here all the time. And once the garden gets going, it's every day. My shadow is on the garden. I'm out there walking around looking at everything. Obsessive. You will get obsessive. So, really, I don't know. You can do all of this on the cheap. You don't need a watering can. You can use a mason jar. You can use a cup with a hole drilled in it. You can just poke holes in cups. You can grow all this stuff without a lot of extra junk. You can reuse things that you already have. You can be creative. Oh, the bottom half of milk jugs. My God, that's a great, like, half-gallon container, right? Because you're cutting it in half, so it's half a gallon. You just cut it in half. Use that. If you live in Canada, use the milk bag. Cut the top off the milk bag and use that. Poke a few holes in the bottom for drainage, you know? You don't have to be buying stuff. Gardening is one of those things where there's a lot of people online who will tell you, you got to buy this, you got to buy that, you need this. No, you don't need a damn thing. Go to the library, ask for some seeds. Oh, message me and ask for some seeds. Look outside, dig up a pot full of dirt. And use an old bucket as a pot. Anything with holes in the bottom so it can drain. Put your seeds in, put a dome over of some kind, even just a piece of saran wrap or something, a cake container. Put your seeds in, put them under light, and wait. The light that you get in your window, unless it's really good, strong, southern or western light, is not going to help your plants. The problem with lighting is that lighting actually needs to be real close to a lot of things. So as you can see, this is like an inch or two away from these guys, right? So close. Oh no. You need to do that. Because if you don't, like, you can see these are short, but these out at the edge, look how long they're reaching. They want that light. And it's too far away. Even a few inches is too far away. It's crazy. So you will need a strip light. Again, they're easily liberated or very cheap. And you can always ask people like me, locally to you, hey, do you have an extra strip light? Do you have an extra grow light of any kind? And just use that. You don't need these fancy shelves. You can literally just use a box with a tray on it. And that's your shelf, You don't need heat mats necessarily if you've got it in a warm place. Heat mats do help germination speed up. But again, ask gardeners, do you have spares? Could I have one? Could I borrow one? I loan stuff out all the time. I give people stuff all the time. I have extra. So if you know gardeners, ask them for help. They will often give you things, loan you things, give you plenty of seeds, everything. Gardeners tend to be generous people, so. But yeah, so that's like expense, setup. Look at me make you dizzy. No, I won't do that. The greenhouse. Now, the hard thing about all this is that when it starts to be warm out, right? Frost is over or about to be over. All of these things will be bigger. And all of these things in here, every single plant in this entire place, will need to be taken out into the sun, put out into the shade, and hardened off slowly so that it doesn't burn and fry and die when the real sun hits it, because these are not the real sun, obviously. And the plant needs to get used to it or it'll sunburn and it'll die. So hardening off, I call it the shuffle season. I hate it. It's the worst thing. I don't have strong arms, so it's very hard for me. and you have to do it every day or every other day at least. So that is my hard season. I'm not there yet, but trying to plan ahead so that you know which things go out when, that's kind of important. You don't need a book for that. You can literally just look on the seed packet or look up the variety online and type it in. And fertilizer, as far as fertilizer goes, look online for free stuff in your area. Look under farm and garden. Look for poop. Look for manure. Look for straw. Look for hay. Look for rabbit, alpaca. Those are the two. If you can find rabbit or alpaca poop mixed with their bedding, you can put that directly on your garden without doing anything else. You just put it on there, dig a little dirt on it, on top of it. It's not going to burn or hurt your plants. It's all ready to go. If you find chicken, horse, cow, those kinds of manure, you need to age them for about a year. So you better have some space where you can have a little stinky pile of compost. And if you're doing that, you might as well have compost piles, and that's a whole nother video about peeing on a pile of leaves. I think I've already made that video. But yeah, so that is my, greenhouse coverage and advice for you. If you have questions, if you see something in here that you're curious about, or you don't know where to find something, or you need something, drop me a comment, hit my website or my email. My website is just my username here, .net. It's easy. I'm the same there too. And again, I don't make money off this. I do it for love of the plants. I was going to say game, but it's not very fun. I wouldn't call it a game. It's more like, work, entrancing work. So yeah, do your best with what you've got from where you're at. And don't worry if some plants die. A lot of plants are going to die. If you're going to go grow a garden, you're going to kill so many plants. I have killed so many plants. You're going to kill them all. You're going to have dead plants. So if you have one plant, you're fucked. You're going to be sad. It's going to die. You're going to kill it. You're going to do something wrong, and you're going to freak out because you have a dead plant. And oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? My plant died. I'm a bad gardener. No. I killed this thing, right? But, it'll go in the compost. I'll use this pot for something else. Yeah. I'll figure out every year certain things I can't grow and I kill easily, and certain things I can grow that I don't kill easily. I don't know. That's just how it works. Stuff dies, other stuff lives. Plant more of the stuff that lives, plant less of the stuff that dies. And getting free seeds from people really helps with that, because you feel less invested in each individual plant, and you become more invested in the totality of everything that you're growing and how the garden itself evolves. So don't obsess over one little plant. Get like 10 of them. Plant 10 of them. Plant 20 seeds, not one. Because that one could die and it'll break your heart. But if you have 20 and 10 of them die, you still got 10 plants. You did it right. That's gardening.